And then you have to unpack that hint to pull the information out. So maybe your partner is flirting and they shouldn't be. And so then you have to find out why they're dissatisfied with the relationship, or what's tempting them, or what is crooked in their soul at the moment, or what they're dissatisfied about. Terrible journey of exploration and discovery. That's always presented as something that's positive. It's often not at all. It's so hard. It's like doing surgery on a suppurating wound. It's no wonder people avoid it. Mm-hmm. But it's not helpful, because all it does is leave that those things grow and multiply in the dark. And if you ignore them, they just cascade.
Do you think that's just self-protection for most people? That most people, they see it, they know that truth behind them, whether it's about their partner or whatever it might be, but it's just self-protection, like, oh, I just got to keep moving on as things are, that we're just creatures of habit or something like that? Well,
sometimes it's that, and it especially gets to be that if it's accumulated for a long time. Because if you wouldn't deal with it when it was a kitten, you're not going to deal with it when it's a full-grown lion.
Yeah.
And so, but I think mostly it's something else I return to in the book, is it's deceit, resentment, and arrogance. I already know what I need to know. That's arrogance. Deceit is, I don't have to pay attention to that. And resentment is, well, things can go to hell and so can he or she. And that's a pretty dark triad. And you don't want the spirit that embodies that to take over your life. That's for sure. Well, motherhood isn't as high status an occupation as it should be. That's a cultural failing. But we're also...
You just got so many moms following you. You just got so many more fans.
I saw this, when my wife had little kids, it was often the case that she wasn't well treated in restaurants and so forth, especially if I wasn't there. So, and that wasn't good. I thought that was a sign of real cultural sickness, that a mother with a young child is treated badly. That's a very bad idea. And that's part of this casual contempt. So anyways, when you're 18 or 17 or 19 or 22, it's like, what do you want exactly? What do you want? And I wrote about that in chapter 3 of this new book, Beyond Order. Don't hide things in the fog. You have to let yourself know what you want. Well, so you make a list of what you want. And what is that? Well, you want someone who's productive and generous and honest. That's a real good start. You want someone that you're physically attracted to.
Yes.
You want someone whose education and intelligence roughly match or exceed your own.
I should stop reading. Daddy Peterson's dating rules. Can't keep going.
Well, and then if you find someone like that, and then that's who you want, right? And you should know that, and you should notice that, because then at least you're looking in the right place. Like there's some.
Maybe you could also put into one of your podcasts or things, because I know a lot of young men follow you, to ask the girls out.
I do say that.
Okay, I don't listen to all of your stuff all the time. Give them a little extra bump.
I tell them all the time. It's like, get out there and ask. And say in my clinical practice too, it's like, you're not going to find someone unless you ask. And, for all there's a lot of criticism aimed at the, the men's movements that teach men how to be a player, how to attract women, there's a lot of negative press aimed at those. And I can understand why, because there's kind of a psychopathic element to it. But one of the things those movements do is to really encourage young men to overcome their fear of approaching women and even asking them for their phone number or for a date or for a conversation or for a coffee, and put a profile up on a dating profile, dress up nicely, get a professional photograph taken, put your best foot forward, and have enough courage to approach some women and maybe get over your fear. And it's so, but I would say to young women, if you find someone who you think fits your criteria and you're not being asked out, ask them.
Fine, I'll do it and I will report back.
Well, what's the alternative? To wait and wither on the vine? That doesn't seem very useful.
I don't want to do that. No, that sounds horrible.
what would you say would be the keys to your success of 50 years of loving each other and being in what seems to be a healthy, functional relationship, when in society today there doesn't seem like many of those?
Well, we really do our best not to lie to each other about anything. And we also have fights when they're necessary. We don't hide things in the fog. That's the title of chapter 3 of my new book, Don't Hide Things in the Fog. And we work through our issues. If we have a dispute, we do our level best to get to the bottom of it, to find out what in the world's causing it, whose needs to change and why and how and when, and then how we can progress forward into the future without having that issue dog us or drag behind us or interfere with us at all. And that means a fair bit of confrontation, I would say, but less so over the years as we've settled more and more things. But everything's out in the open. Everything that we can get is out in the open. You can't have a relationship without trust. And you trust your partner courageously if you're not naive, knowing that you can be hurt and that you can be deceived and that you can also do both of those things. So you offer your partner your trust as an invitation to them to be honest and forthcoming, and then issues come up and you delve into them and straighten them out. In my marriage and in my relationship with my children and in my clinical practice, you have to negotiate. That's what men and women have to do. And so I talk about that particularly in chapter 3 of my new book, which is Don't Hide Things in the Fog. It's like, well, let's talk about sex, for example. That's a good one. There's a stumbling block in a relationship. Let's talk about sex. Well, that's hard. People don't do it. They're they'll have sex, they'll engage in sexual acts, but they won't represent them abstractly and discuss them. So, well, how often should we have sex? Well, how are you going to solve that problem? Well, first of all, each person has to admit how often they'd like to have sex. They might be uncomfortable with that right off the bat. They might not even know because they're so uncomfortable about it, they never even asked themselves. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what will I do if I don't get that? And people don't like that question either, because it means, well, you're going to get bitter and you're going to get resentful and you're going to get mopey and